The Ancient City. A study on the religion, laws, and institutions of Greece and Rome.
Numa Denis Fustel De Coulanges.
Book 2nd, The Family. Chapter 5, of Kinship. Of what the Romans called Agnation.
Plato says that kinship is the community of the same domestic gods. When Demosthenes wishes to prove that two men are relatives, he shows that they practice the same religious rites, and offer the funeral repast at the same tomb. Indeed, it was the domestic religion that constituted relationship. Two men could call themselves relatives when they had the same gods, the same sacred fire, and the same funeral repast. Now, we have already observed that the right to offer sacrifices to the sacred fire was transmitted only from male to male, and that the worship of the dead was addressed to the ascendants in the male line only. It followed from this rule that one could not be related through females. In the opinion of those ancient generations, a female transmitted neither being nor worship. The son owed all to the father. Besides, one could not belong to two families, or invoke two fires. The son, therefore, had no other religion or other family than that of the father. How could there have been a maternal family? His mother herself, the day on which the sacred rites of marriage were performed, had absolutely renounced her own family. From that time she had offered the funeral repast to her husband's ancestors, as if she had become their daughter, and she had no longer offered it to her own ancestors, because she was no longer considered as descended from them. She had preserved neither religious nor legal connection with the family in which she was born. For a still stronger reason, her son had nothing in common with this family. The foundation of relationship was not birth, it was worship. This is seen clearly in India. There the chief of the family, twice each month, offers the funeral repast. He presents a cake to the munes of his father, another to his paternal grandfather, a third to his great-grandfather, never to those from whom he is descended on the mother's side, neither to his mother, nor to his mother's father. Afterwards, ascending still higher, but always in the same line, he makes an offering to fourth, fifth, and sixth ascendant. The offering to these last is lighter, it is a libation of water and a few grains of rice. Such is the funeral repast, and it is according to the accomplishment of these rites that relationship is reckoned. When two men, who offer their funeral repasts separately, can, each one, by ascending through a series of 6 ancestors, find one who is common to both, they are akin. They are called Samanodakas, if the common ancestor is one of those to whom they offer only the libation of water, Sapindas, if he is of those to whom the cake is presented. Counting according to our usage, the relation of the Sapindas would go to the 7th degree, and that of the Samanodakas to the 14th. In both cases the relationship is shown by the fact that both make an offering to the same ancestor, and we see that in this system the relationship through females cannot be admitted. The case was the same in the West. There has been much discussion as to what the Roman jurists understood by Agnation. But the problem is of easy solution as soon as we bring Agnation and the domestic religion together. Just as this religion was transmitted only from male to male, so it is attested by all the ancient jurists, that two men can be agnates only when, ascending from male to male, they were found to have common ancestors. The rule for Agnation was, then, the same as that for worship. There was between these two things a manifest relation. Agnation was nothing more than relationship such as religion had originally established it. To render this truth clearer, let us trace the genealogical table of a Roman family. In this table, the 5th generation, which lived towards the year 140 B.C., is represented by 4 personages. Were they all akin? According to our modern ideas on this subject, they were. In the opinion of the Romans, all were not. Now, let us inquire if they all had the same domestic worship, that is to say, if they all made offerings to the same ancestors. Let us suppose the third Scipio Asiaticus, who alone remains of his branch, offering the funeral repast on a particular day, ascending from male to male, he finds for the third ancestor Publius Scipio. Again, Scipio Aemilianus, offering his sacrifice, will meet in the series of his ascendants this same Publius Scipio. Scipio Asiaticus and Scipio Aemilianus are, therefore, related to each other. Among the Hindus they would be called Sapindas. On the other hand, Scipio Serapio has for a fourth ancestor L. Cornelia Scipio, who is also the fourth ancestor of Scipio Aemilianus. They are, therefore, akin. Among the Hindus they would be called Samanodakas. In the judicial and religious language of the Romans, these three Scipios are agnates, the two first are agnates in the 6th degree, the third is their agnata in the 8th degree. The case is not the same with Tiberius Gracchus. This man, who, according to our modern customs, would be nearest related to Scipio Aemilianus, was not related to him in the remotest degree. It was of small account, indeed, for Tiberius that he was the son of Cornelia, the daughter of the Scipios. Neither he nor Cornelia herself belonged to that family, in a religious point of view. He has no other ancestors than the Sempronii, it is to them that he offers the funeral repast. In ascending the series of his ancestors he never comes to a Scipio. Scipio Aemilianus and Tiberius Gracchus, therefore, are not agnates. The tie of blood does not suffice to establish this relationship, a common worship is necessary. We can now understand why, in the eyes of the Roman law, two consanguineous brothers were agnates, while two uterine brothers were not. Still we cannot say that descent by males was the immutable principle on which relationship was founded. It was not by birth, it was by worship alone, that the agnates were recognized. The son whom emancipation had detached from the worship was no longer the agnata of his father. The stranger who had been adopted, that is to say, who had been admitted to the worship, became the agnata of the one adopting him, and even of the whole family. So true is it that it was religion that established relationship. There came a time, indeed, for India and Greece, as well as for Rome, when relationship of worship was no longer the only kind admitted. By degrees, as this old religion lost its hold, the voice of blood spoke louder, and the relationship of birth was recognized in law. The Romans gave the name of cognatio to this sort of relationship, which was absolutely independent of the rules of the domestic religion. When we read the jurists from Cicero to Justinian, we see the two systems as rivals of each other, and contending in the domain of law. But in the time of the 12 Tables, agnation was the only relationship known, and this alone conferred the right of inheritance. We shall see, farther on, that the case was the same among the Greeks.